And whoosh, we're back again.
Yes, we are.
Yeah,
It's
man.
us.
Yeah, it's the terrible two. Uh,
Yes, it is.
yeah, it's Pete and Keith here. And how you doing, Keith? You having a good day?
Living the dream. It's still kind of not early. It's almost about 9:30 in the morning here, 25 to 10. And so yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Yeah, we're coming up to 26 in the evening. Only
There you go.
no, no for the time checks. Hey,
Yeah.
listen, we're back again, and we're having a little bit of a weekend catch up as we do.
Mhm.
So I'm
Yeah.
talking to you today about. We're going to reflect on. Well, on Friday night, we held the first of the year Paint Toolkit in Conversations,
Yeah.
that we with our friends from around the planet,
Yeah.
from the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa.
South Africa. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Keith, I mean, we hold. I know the next one's in February, and
Yeah.
the the theme was all around what all the stuff like. What we're going to be doing in 2026, etc. And
Hmm.
I'll tell you I found it quite inspiring, really. I always, when we have these conversations, I always come away with lots of wind in my sails because
Yeah.
of what things are going on in other parts of the planet around supportive self-management.
Hmm.
But what's your take? What was your reflections on it?
Yeah, very, very much the same, Pete. It was amazing. Like you said, we had just such a great representation, like literally across the globe. Like from North America all the way over to Australia, and it was amazing to hear what people are doing. And one of the things, and you and I have talked about this before, is often we don't know what we don't know. And by what I mean by that is we just don't know what other people are doing or what's happening.
Yeah,
And so sometimes we kind of, we wonder, like, really, what's happening in the world of supported self-management? And then to hear that group talk about what they're doing, it was amazing because like they're doing some incredible stuff.
yeah,
And it was really empowering and really uplifting to hear what they're doing. And it made me realize that there's a lot of good stuff happening. And we just need to get the word out there more. So I think, if we can help get the word out there more, that will inspire others. People will connect with one another, and this movement will continue to build. So it was great. It was a perfect way to start off 2026 because I think it kind of laid the foundation for what we and that group and others, want to see happen in 2026. So it was great. And we got lots of feedback from people about how amazingly positive it was and how good they
yeah.
all felt after that one.
I think listening to what everybody had to say, etc. It's sort of, I was thinking, well, what I didn't think about it until today when I was out for a walk, really. But it always makes me do a lot of thinking afterwards, like, and I think,
Mhm.
how can we harness all this information?
Yes.
And I think what we can do, with the website that's going live soon, the Support Yourself Management website,
Yeah.
is we create some space on there to
Yeah.
so that we can post all the good stuff other what self managers are doing, good news stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What's happening
Yeah.
around the planet, really, because we talk about getting on the bandwagon this year, like the supporters
Yeah.
bandwagon. But unless you're attending the conversation, which is merely just a small group of us, but unless you're doing that, you won't, or you're constantly on social media, you won't know what the hell's going on.
Hmm.
So I think what we'll do, Keith, is we can we'll find some space on the new site, be for pain and people living with long-term conditions, and just post on there. If you just when you're watching this, guys, if you just get in contact with myself or Keith, and we can post it on a special link, and you can dip in and out and see what others are doing, like because it may inspire you to do something similar in your part of the world, like.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great idea. And that's what we talked about was just finding that way to get the word out, like you said. And I'm just reminded of that conversation about how, we heard similar stories from people. People talked about how, they sometimes feel isolated because they don't know what's going on. And by the end of that conversation, everybody was like, this is amazing. To hear what's happening. So it's about getting the word out there and connecting people to others and just helping to, build this movement and continue the momentum because it's critically important. And this is going to be one of these grassroots movements. Like we're gonna make change from the bottom up. Like we're not going to start from the top, from systems and change them because that's massive work. So, we'll do our part and everybody will grab their bit of the rope and we'll pull. And by everybody grabbing their part of the rope and pulling, that's how we'll move things along.
You know what? That's what really come out of the meeting for me. Really, is where we're waiting for the systems to change to
Hmm.
accommodate us.
Yep,
I think we're all coming to conclusion that ain't going to happen.
absolutely. You know,
There isn't the why and wherefore out there, perhaps experience, skills, etc. So
mhm.
I think
Yep.
really it's about us pushing it through. I mean, it's one of the reasons why we started doing the conferences, isn't it? Uh,
Absolutely. Yeah. We heard a couple of people talk about how they've got like a little bit of an into quote the systems and they're making, their change that way, which is great. We heard from a couple who said, their focus is now outside of the system to do what they can. And I think it's all of that. Like there's
yeah,
no one answer. It is,
yeah,
you find what you can do and you do that thing.
yeah.
Because how do you change the world? You do it one little bit at a time. And I don't think that's hyperbolic. Like
No,
are we going to change the world? I think we're going to make a change in the world, but it's going to take everybody doing their little bit and whatever that is.
yeah. I think not just providers. I think healthcare professionals are slowly sort of becoming more aware that I think they just get frustrated as hell that
They do.
the medical model they've been taught and they get stuck in, and they're
Yeah.
slowly figuring out that this ain't working and
Yeah.
you need another way. And really, the only other way really is support is self-management. Really, it's not about them having to do all the work. It's about both the patient and them working together as a team, etc. Like, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
What I'm hearing more and more lately is that disconnect between what they were taught in their formal education and then what they're
yeah,
seeing in their clinical practices.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then and then educating them because they're not getting this in their formal curriculums, educating them about the importance of, listening to people who live with long-term conditions, pain and everything, believing what they have to say, understanding what they can do. Like they're never taught any of that. And we're seeing so many who are conflicted because they're like, my education and my reality are not joining. And so if we as a collective group can help get the word out about these are the things that people who live with pain and other conditions, need, these are foundational skills, maybe that's how we make the change or help make the change.
I don't know if you noticed it on Friday night. You know, when you told we better not say where it was or where the example was of where someone was doing a presentation to doctors,
Yep.
and did they say they will? Will you tell the story? I mean,
Yeah,
how,
so I
how
know
did
I'll call it out. It was here in British Columbia. Like it's just it happens everywhere. But somebody I know who was presenting to a group of 60 family doctors, GPs, family physicians, about chronic pain, and she said to a to a person, every single one of them in this program, in this course, or this education system, it basically said, "What is chronic pain?" Like like they couldn't eat when they were asked to like, what is it? Can you define it? Can you say? And they were like, we don't know. There
yeah,
are 2026 and 60 family doctors, and I firmly believe family medicine is the cornerstone of medicine. And they're saying we don't even know what this
yeah.
is.
I was watching the screen when you said that, and I think you mentioned it before to me, and but I was watching the screen and it's like a bit of a shot intake of breath, like saying, "What? Like, what the hell's that?"
I think it's a perfect because it's happening in Canada, it's happening in the US, it's happening in the
Yeah,
UK, it's happening in Australia, Japan, China. Pick a country, it's happening. It's
yeah,
not just us,
yeah.
but that's a really good example of what is not happening. And to think that we're going to change that overnight is probably not realistic, but everybody doing their part around the world will have
Yeah.
slowly affect that change.
We'll change one doctor at a time.
If that's what it takes, absolutely, and they'll tell their friend and they'll learn and so on and so on. So,
So listen, anyway, thanks for, we just, as we said last night, we're answering a couple of questions that have been sent in, and that's what we're going to be doing now. So, a third question that someone sent in: Are
mhm.
there any of there specific exercises that can help alleviate my symptoms? And if I just sort of kick us off a little bit, I think
Please do. Yeah.
I know back in the day, I have to say back in the day because it's the way it's changed now. But
Yeah.
when I was on my pain management program, it was about straight doing regular stretches and exercises.
Hmm.
But now that term now is pretty much gone. It's now called meaningful movement.
Yeah.
Finding a movement. But for me, it was on the program. We would set certain exercises or stretches and exercises, and what a whole group did, like etc. And I think because up until then, because to me, before I went on the program, it was to me exercise equal pain
Yeah.
and increased symptoms, etc. But that was only
Yeah.
because I stopped exercise or stopped avoiding movement because
Yeah.
when I did move or do anything, walk or whatever, my symptoms would increase. But I always think it was like my joints had rusted up, like
Hmm.
and they needed I needed to free them up a bit, and that's through exercising. I think that then the take-home message also got from the program. They did say that when you do start to move, your pain levels can go up,
Yes.
but it drops off, and I sort of I look at it and it did for me, but I always think of it like a door that hasn't been opened, and my joints were like a door that hasn't been opened for some time. It creaks a
Yeah.
bit, creaks a
Yeah.
bit, right, but
Yeah.
the more movement I did, the less pain I started to get,
Hmm.
and and I think really if you want to start moving, I always say to go and see a physiotherapist or someone who's experienced in pain management, etc. Like a physiotherapist who's trained in
Hmm.
to work with people with pain, etc. Like I mean. But what's your experience been, Keith? Because I know you do a lot of running on your little running machine you got over there.
Yes. Yeah. No, very, very similar to you. Love the term meaningful movement because not everybody aligns with traditional exercise. And that's why what we're seeing now, so the question is what exercises, can I do to help alleviate my pain? The answer I would say to that is the exercise or the movement that you enjoy the most because
Yeah.
it's about moving your body. Now, you and I happen to be very similar in that we both, our meaningful movement is traditional exercise. I strength train, I run on a treadmill, because those are the things that I actually like to do. But, not everybody's aligned with that, and that's completely fine. And don't ask somebody to do something that they don't like because they're not going to do it. They're just not. So, but
Mhm.
if they like to hike, walk, cycle, swim, work in their garden, dance, tai chi, yoga, stretching, whatever it is. If you enjoy it, do it.
Yeah.
And like you said, and listen to your body. I was just like you. I avoided movement like the plague. I was seriously injured in my car accident as a kid. I was literally kind of almost ripped in half internally. And every time I moved and that pain increased, I always had visions of me damaging myself. I would have these visions in my head of my body ripping apart. And it took me a while to learn that if I slowly moved, and the pain, like you say, it goes up a little bit, but then it comes off again. Just don't do it so much where you drive the pain rate up. Stop before it gets to that point. And over time, you'll gradually build up Your body will come accustomed to it. Just move your body. Find the thing that you love, that you enjoy,
Yeah.
and do that. And that will bring so many rewards, both physically
Yeah.
and emotionally and mentally. It's amazing. Yeah.
But would you agree, Keith? It's a confidence thing as well. You know, you gain
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
once you
Yeah.
start moving, and you'll find. I mean, when I look back at the exercises that I did on the course, I'm still doing a couple of them now, actually, stretching wise.
Hmm.
But as your body frees up and everything, you'll find those too easy, like and you want to
Yeah.
find something that challenges you, etc. Like but
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and for me, I do a bit of a mixture. Uh,
Hmm.
I joined a gym years. I didn't do it not straight after the course, the pain management course. I think I joined it quite a few years later, actually. But I was gymophobic. You know,
Hmm.
I,
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
yeah, all the muscly people go down there,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
beautiful people as I call them.
Yeah.
But when I started going to a gym, I found out it was mean people just like me. You know,
Right.
so
Yeah.
that was a bit of a
Yeah.
shock to the system. And yeah, but I do a mixture of everything really now. A bit of yoga, a bit of Tai Chi,
Yeah. Right. Keep it
Qigong.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
mix it
Yeah.
up a bit. I've been for a walk
Yeah.
today in the fields,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah,
And
go on.
one of the things I would suggest to people is be kind to yourself. There often we're comparing ourselves to, I know I did, the before my pain and then the after, and the things that I could do and then the things that I can't do. And so if let's say you were somebody who liked to walk and somebody would walk, 5 kilometers a day,
Mm,
and then their pain develops and now they can't do that anymore. So they think, well, I can't do that, I can't do anything. Well, no, start again. And I know it's hard, but if you start and if you can walk a couple 100 meters, and that's as far as that's fine. But if you just kind of keep at it, you know, and then that couple 100 meters over time will become 500 meters. And then it might come up to 1,000, you're doing a kilometer. You may never get back to your 5 kilometers,
yeah.
but you're doing something. And be kind to yourself and say, I'm doing something and I'm moving my body in a way that I enjoy. And maybe it's not quite what I used to be, but I'm still doing what I can. And that is so empowering and you feel so good about
Yeah.
yourself.
And as you say, there, pace it up and
Absolutely.
don't, like this time of year, we record these videos in January, and it's normally where we've got a lot of newbies that come to the gym, and you can see them
Mhm.
there, and they're
All in, right? Yeah.
going out like their life depends on it.
Yeah.
And people say to them, slow down, because
Yeah. Yeah.
the thing is, it's just take your time. The thing is,
Hmm.
as well, you get your confidence back, you get mobility.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's it's like building foundations, etc.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, I mean, just to answer that question again, what is the exercise that can do to help manage my pain? It really is the movement that you enjoy the most. And then all the things we just talked about, do what you can, pace yourself, have a plan. Um, just be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
It's tough and you're doing a great job. And by doing something,
Yeah.
you're doing something. And that's really important.
And see a physiotherapist because they could get you, to start you off with. You may need a little bit of a guidance, but
Hmm.
you can
Yeah.
find a
Yeah.
physiotherapist. Is it a physical therapist over there in Canada or a physio?
In Canada, we call them physiotherapists. In the US, they call them physical therapists. Same
Yeah.
thing, right?
You need someone who's familiar with pain management, okay?
Hmm. Yep.
Because there's physiotherapists that specialise in pain. There's done others that specialise with people with other long-term health conditions, like so
Hmm.
seek one out.
Yeah.
It's experienced in pain management.
Yeah. So
Okay,
meaningful movement. That's our takeaway with that
I
one.
mean, we're doing it, baby.
Absolutely.
So another question here is: are there any specific? No, no, just read that one out.
Yep.
What nutrition changes might support my overall health and pain management? Keith, do you want to start that one off?
So it's a great question, but right out there, in no way are you and I experts in nutrition. The best people who can answer those questions are nutritionists and dietitians. So those are great questions for them. I think you and I can speak to just kind of
Yeah,
general
yeah, yeah,
statements. Generally, I would say this is based on my experience and in talking to many others, but it's just my experience. I can't specifically talk about what foods and stuff like that, but I just know the better that I eat, the better I feel. And by better I eat, that means staying away. And I'm not saying exclude things like, sometimes you like to have a snack or some what we in Canada call junk food,
yeah.
and that's okay if you have it in small parts in moderation. But if you generally look after your health by eating, properly, have your fruits and your vegetables and then you just generally feel better. So I can't and nor would I, prescribe what are the right foods to eat. Just generally eat as healthy as you can, but it's okay if you slide in, the occasional thing that you enjoy. That's 100% fine. Just don't make that the main thing that you eat. So,
Yeah, I mean, there's so much information on out there now. I know on the NHS website, there's lots of
mhm.
guidance on there.
Excellent. Yeah.
Eating
Yeah.
healthily. I think the one they promote the most like the Mediterranean diet. So it's a mixture of proteins and
Right.
oat
Yeah.
and whatnot,
Yeah. Yeah.
fish and and there's certain things. For those who don't know, I live with prostate cancer, and so when I got diagnosed with that 10 years ago, I had to change what I ate.
Hmm.
I had to avoid processed foods,
Right.
uh,
Yep. Yes.
sweet things, etc.
Yeah.
And so I had to lose. Well, I did start losing weight. I had to do more walking and whatnot, but exercise. But eating wise, I had to stay away, which I have done, like sausages, bacon,
Hmm.
any processed foods really,
Right.
uh, because they didn't offer me any value, like because of condition and it's okay. Yeah, at the beginning it's a little bit tough, but it's like anything, you get used to it and stuff like that.
Right.
Start using your imagination. What do I for
Yeah.
dinner today? I had jacket potatoes today, like so that's a Sunday, that's where we golden is. Buy some jacket potato and had some prawns with it, which are mixed up with some mayonnaise. Uh,
Hmm.
Made it a bit interesting. Put some chili flakes with that.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
and a few
Yeah.
some baked beans and
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, yeah, I mean, you just get used to eating different sorts of foods, etc. But I'm not saying Peter as well as sometimes I have a little bit of a slip and
Absolutely.
but the thing is, I have to. What's my 1 week, my 1 day in a week where I probably fall off my list is my Thursday when I have fish and chips, like but
Hmm.
I live opposite a fish and chip man, so
There
uh,
you go. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's my only sort of dodgy day, I suppose, really.
And it's okay. I mean, everything in moderation and those little reward days I think are fine. Like because you focus in and you're allowed to do that. It's just when that becomes your normal diet, I think that's harder on a body. And that's when, we just generally don't feel as well. So and don't like you said, you had to work at it. You had to transition and over time you learned how to do this.
Mm,
It's like people who on January 2nd show up at the gym and they're going to completely change their health overnight. That's not going to happen. When you change your eating habits, it's going to be gradual and you're going to slowly introduce things. And again, like we talked about with Movement Next, be kind to yourself. Like just this is hard. This is all hard and you can't do it overnight. So just, take your time, work towards a goal. Know you're going to have days where it doesn't go great, but that's okay. Just keep moving forward.
yeah, I mean, nowadays there's so much information out there. I don't
Hmm.
know. We're both on Instagram. I get a lot of healthy eating stuff on Instagram,
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I
The
took.
flip side to that is to watch out for some of the crazy fads and
Oh yeah, yeah,
the cleanses and all that kind of stuff, which aren't very good for you. Just
yeah.
stick to
No,
the
no.
traditional stuff.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but
Yeah.
again, get advice from like a nutritionist.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, we've got a couple more questions we're all add in next week.
Yes,
If you've
sir.
got any questions at all that you would like myself and Keith to answer, we're not healthcare professionals, but between us, what we got, is this 70 years?
75 years or so of
Yeah,
experience doing this.
I
Yeah.
think you've been at it longer than me. Uh,
Yeah. Yay.
yeah, but got a good 70 odd years
Yep.
between us of experience living with pain and long-term conditions.
Yep.
So if you've got any questions at all, just drop me a message, and we'll do our best to we'll add it to our list and we'll answer them the best we can. Okay.
That's the thing. We'll answer them the best we can. We're not experts in everything. Actually, we're not experts in just about anything, but we do have lots of experience, and we can also direct people to the right resources.
Yeah. Don't forget, we've got to plug the conference, Keith.
Absolutely. So February 16th to the 21st is Supported Self-Management Week. And the capstone to that is the Supported Self-Management Conference, which is February 20th in North America, North and South America, and 21st for the rest of you fine people in the world. Six amazing people who will be presenting about supported self-management. We've got sort of clinicians, healthcare providers, and people who live with pain. It will be another amazing conference, as it is every year. We're blown away every year by the people who graciously give their time to come and do this, because everybody does all this for free. They do it because it's important and they give their time and their expertise. So mark it on your calendars. But the week, Supported Self-Management Week, get out there, talk about it, raise awareness, let us know what you're doing, and then sign up for the conference.
Yeah. If you can't make the conference itself, don't forget it. Just register. It's a donation only. Uh,
Yep.
uh, Everybody that registers will get the video link to the presentations and also the audio link as well.
You bet.
Okay, so take care, everyone. Look after yourselves. We'll see you next week. Take care.
All
Ciao.
right. Thanks, everyone. See ya.
Bye.